Hello and welcome to Blue Army TV. I'm sitting up to Carlisle. I've just been beaten 2-1 away to Doncaster in what was a really disappointing game considering the two brilliant performances we've come off the back of. I just think injuries started to catch up with us a little bit, and playing very very frequently. It was only a few days ago that I was in Crewe watching us play live. I genuinely was like 3-4 days ago. Like, there's no break between these games at the minute, and that's just the festive period for you. But with the amount of injuries we've got, I think they're starting to take hold a bit. Taylor Charter's up for 3 months. Is absolutely gutting because he was just starting to come into his best form. A regular starter in the team. The same can be said for Jack Ellis, although he won't be injured for as long. I think he's going to be out for 5 or 6 weeks, something like that. Maybe not even that much. Both hamstring problems. It seems every single time we get injured this season, it's something to do with the hamstrings. It's a weird one because I've never known a season like this where we've got so many injuries. Jack Stretton went off today as well. There's just so many injuries. The only... I don't know how to explain it. It's just so... I don't know what the problem is, though. And that's the thing. It's a weird problem to have, all these injuries, because it seems one person's coming back, 2 people are getting injured. Finn Back and Jack Ellis, our 2 best right backs, are both injured, so we had to throw in Joel Senior, who hasn't played a professional game of football since near enough this time last year. He's been out of football for a year with a bad injury. I think it broke something, didn't he? I can't remember. And he came in and he made a really bad mistake for the first goal. Or at least he didn't do great for the first goal. I think he'll be disappointed with himself for how that happened. And I can't even blame him for it. That's the thing. I don't think in an ideal world he would not be playing in this game. He wouldn't be thrown into a league game as starting in the way that he has been. He needed to be eased back into games, maybe given 10 minutes at the end of a game, 20 minutes here. But no, he was thrown straight back in for his full debut against a good Doncaster team. And I don't even think he played particularly badly. He just had one bad error. And the same could be said for our second goal. It was just a bad error. Thomas Oley, he's becoming a little bit of a liability. These last 2 games, although we've won, he hasn't filled me with confidence. And I love Thomas Oley. He's one of my favourite players. But not for how he performs on the pitch. I love him dancing at the end of games when we won. At Crewe, I was standing that away end, coming over at the fans, dancing. He absolutely loves it here. And he's such a happy person, Thomas Oley. But a person of that height, he stays on his line too much. He's far too scared of crosses. He makes a few bad errors as well. He's starting to become a little bit of a problem for me. And it's really difficult to take because there's no way, coming into January, they're not going to replace Thomas Oley. And they're not going to give Kelly a go. And I'm 100% behind that. Because I think with a goalkeeper, it's something you need to keep consistent for the entire season. And I think many good teams have been derailed by losing a goalkeeper. You can have a really good backup keeper, which we've got. I think Michael Kelly is absolutely unreal, and I think he's League 2 quality at least. And I think ideally he'd be starting for a League 2 team. He's our second choice. He's a really good player. But you can't destabilise a team by changing the goalkeeper because it does destabilise the entire team. And teams have tried it. Think of Man United a few years ago when they were constantly swapping between De Gea and Henderson, and they had one of the worst seasons they've ever had in the Premier League. You can't do it. You can't just stop and change keepers, which is why Thomas Oley will be the keeper for the remainder of this season at least. He's on a 2-year deal. I expect he'll see out that 2-year deal and be our first choice next season. It's just he needs to book his ideas up a little bit. That's what he needs to do because he wasn't good today. He hasn't been particularly good since we came back from, the kind of mini break for the World Cup. I know League 2 didn't really stop, but there was a bit of a break with games being postponed due to the weather. But since he came back from that break, he hasn't really played particularly well. He had a good start to the season, but he doesn't come for crosses enough. And you watch that game today. I didn't watch the full thing. I've seen some clips back. I saw the last 25 minutes in its entirety because I was at work today. I'm absolutely gutted. I'm so livid that I couldn't go down to Doncaster today. I had to be at work. But you win some, you lose some, I suppose. But you can't be at them all. And I suppose if I'm going to miss a game, I would rather lose out on this one. But yeah, he didn't fill me with much confidence. He can't come for crosses, and he's 6 foot. What is he? 6'10". He needs to be able to do that. And you look at the keeper for Doncaster today, 5'11". He absolutely showed his class. He was coming for everything, every corner. He showed him up. He really did show up Thomas Holy. He's a foot smaller. Near enough exactly a foot smaller than Thomas Holy. And he's so much better in the air. And I just don't understand how that works. Anyways, I'll stop slating Thomas Holy because I do like him. And that's always going to have an effect. But something does need to change with him. They're not going to change personnel, so something needs to change now with him. And we've got a really good goalkeeper coach in Anthony Gerrard. You know, he apparently he helps train some of the strikers as well. He seems to be a really important part of that backroom staff. So something needs to be done with Thomas Holy. Train him to come for crosses. Be a bit more confident in himself. Get himself off his line a bit. Coming further forward. And his distribution as well. It wasn't as bad today. But some of his distribution this season has been really, really poor. And, you know, you look at last season, we had Magnus Norman, who was probably one of the best with his distribution. I don't know, it's just such a big change. Literally, because he is massive. But yeah, apart from that, Joel Senior there. I don't think Paul Huntington played well today, from what I've heard. And another player who didn't play particularly well is Jordan Gibson. And he's another player I want to speak about because he hasn't had a good few games. He's really not in good form at the minute. Bradford, I expected something from him. I expected to see Jordan Gibson play at Bradford. I didn't speak too much about it on the post-match reaction on this channel. But because we'd won and I didn't want to focus on any negatives, but he really didn't do very well. Jordan Gibson, I thought with a club that they were chanting at him, they were cheering him up. They were insulting him, the away fans, the Bradford fans, and I expected to see a reaction like what Harry McCurdy seems to give Carlisle fans every single time we play him. You know, we boo him, we chant about him, and then he puts in a good performance. I wanted to see that from Jordan Gibson, but he didn't do it. He didn't play well last week at Crewe, although he has moments. That's the thing with Jordan Gibson. You look at clips of him and you think he's this brilliant player, but he'll do a little bit of skill or a really good pass, and then he'll give the ball away straight away. He's one of them players that, you know, you look at highlight reels on him on Instagram or something like that, and he looks like a world-class player, but you watch him play football, he can't hit the target, and he tries to do too much. And it's another opportunity for him today. And I want to say as well, when Jamie Devitt came on, he looked class. Jamie Devitt, I think, needs to be starting ahead of Jordan Gibson. I think Jordan Gibson was taken out of the team because Taylor Charters started playing really well, and Charters sort of got in ahead of him. Charters is injured, Gibson's back in the team. I know there was that little period where they were both in the team for a bit. But now I want to see Jamie Devitt being given a chance ahead of him, because he came on and he looked absolutely fantastic. Some of the passes Jamie Devitt can do are unreal. I feel sorry for Jamie Devitt because he would not be playing at this level if he hadn't had the amount of injuries he's had, because he's so talented, he's so gifted, and he's somewhat of a club legend as well. I feel fans absolutely adore Jamie Devitt. They love seeing him come on every single time. He was probably one of our best players under Sheridan them years ago, and I think he's got the ability to do that again under Paul Simpson if he can stay fit, which is a very, very big if with Jamie Devitt. If he can stay fit, I think he'll be class, and I want to see him being given a chance to start, because I would really love to see a midfield of Guy, Devitt, Moxon, because them three players are all brilliant. I think they would complement each other so much, because you've got Moxon, who's doing that box-to-box role, Jamie Devitt in that attacking role, doing some of his brilliant passes that he does all the time, and Callum Guy behind the two in that defensive midfield role, also with a good shot on him. He's got a couple of goals in him. Brilliant passer, brilliant tackler. That's a really good midfield, and you can, Jamie Devitt is a bit of he's soft a little bit. You can say that he's a little bit soft. He's not though, but he's not a hard tackler like Callum Guy or Owen Moxon is. But you can allow that little bit of flair that Jamie Devitt has, that them passes, them little bits of tricks, because he has the end product as well. Jamie Devitt almost scored an absolute screamer against Crewe, which would have been brilliant. I'm so gutted that didn't go in. But yeah, I think today's result, at the end of the day, we're still in fourth, and I know we're in a bit of a false position, because you look, we're 4 points away from like 9th or something like that. You know, people are talking about pushing for the automatic promotion places. I was last week because I was so excited by the win, but we're closer now to not being in the playoffs than we are to them automatic promotion places. And I think the first sort of aim for this team needs to be just to solidify themselves in the playoffs. Before you start dreaming about anything bigger, solidify your place in the playoffs, because these results will happen, especially with games coming, fast. I haven't even mentioned Christian Dennis's goal. Good, I'm glad he got it, because it adds to his total for the season, and as well it showed that the team hadn't given up, which is a problem that I've noticed in the past with Carlisle teams. It's never been the case under Paul Simpson, I'll admit, but under Chris Beach, Presley, even Sheridan at times, Carlisle teams, when they would go 2-0 down, their heads would drop, and it's been one of my biggest problems with teams in the past, that they just give up and they don't fight for it. We were fighting for it towards the end. We got the goal back, and right at the end when Morgan Feeney had a header, and he should have done better with it. I'm not blaming him for anything to do with this result, but Morgan Feeney maybe could have done a little bit better with the header, and I thought, it's like Oldham all over again, it's going to go into the top corner, but it wasn't to be, it went over the bar. But on another day, we probably could have won that. We were, according to what people are saying, we were probably the better team for 60 minutes. It's just little errors that cost us. And I'm going to have to leave it at that. Let me know what you think, because let me know if I'm sitting here chatting a load of waffle. I want you to tell me that. So yeah, please leave a comment what you think about this game. And if you feel like it, leave a like. And please subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching, and in a bit.